Good afternoon. My name is Tim Creamer. I'm the chair of the Voorheesville Central School District Curriculum Committee. All the members of that curriculum committee are present. It is November 15th, 2022, and we have an agenda today that will include a discussion about outside programs, including Tech Valley High School, and then some 21-22 New York State testing data, review and discussion about that. We'll see if there's any other agenda items, but that's all we have on the agenda at this time. Any questions? Okay, we're ready to go.
Okay, so the district has, prior to me getting here, as far as I know, and Karen, you kind of confirmed this, has not allowed for students to go to Tech Valley. It's not a program that the district has sent students to. So I'm bringing this up because I had a family reach out to me over the summer, came in to meet with me. Their kids currently do not go to the school district. They went to school district 2 years prior. They now have sent them to a different school, and they were wondering about when they send their child back, if Tech Valley would be an option. So I met with them. I said, I'm not sure, but this is definitely something you can do. It's been district practice not to send children to Tech Valley School District. So I wanted to make sure, I wanted to read you the letter that the family wrote. And they said I could, so they wanted me to do that tonight. And then also just have a quick conversation, know if this is the practice, if this isn't the practice that we want to continue, if we want to look into this at a bigger board discussion. Just so you know, Tech Valley is $16,239 per student. We get about 60% aid back on that. The difference with Tech Valley and CT are like a New Visions program, which is basically a one-year BOCES program, or a BOCES program, which is a 2-year program from 11th grade and 12th grade. New Visions, the students go there for the, Tech Valley, they go there for the full day. You have to get in, it's a lottery. They go there from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 o'clock. They do not go here. They are not a Voorheesville student. It's basically an out-of-district placement. It's a progress-based, like project-based learning, different type of environment, a little bit smaller. Kids seem to do well, region-wise. There's some success and not success on it in comparison. Some kids do very, very well there. Some kids don't. It's really just dependent on the child, but that does happen from time to time. I sent students there in a previous district that I went to where they didn't do well. Then the district stopped sending kids. It was a budgetary concern as well, because what happens is you send them for 9th grade, then you do one slot. Then that child's there for 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. The next year, compound that, so now you have 2 kids going. And by the end of it, you have 1 in every grade level going. So you're looking at least $80,000 to $100,000 after you're full up and running per year expenditure on those students to not have program in district. And a lot of times, some of those programs can be met here, or some of the things can be done in school. So not all schools send. Some schools do, some schools don't. It really is dependent on the district and the budget that they want to spend. Again, it's not a one-size-fit here. So sometimes it's a better option to send them elsewhere. That is it. The district currently has not sent children there
for a while,
for a long time. Right?
When I first started, we had a student in Tech Valley, and then they allowed the sibling a couple of years later to do that. And then they really felt, the board felt committed, even though we were struggling with financial situation, because, how do you now take them out after a year or 2 years? You really want them to be able to do their 4 years.
But I do know there was an ask a few years back that I did a little bit of research on, and they were denied by the board, correct?
Yes. That was, I believe, the year before COVID, the 18-19 year.
Prior to, it was before me. I know that because I didn't know about it until I researched it a little bit.
If you want to read that letter?
I will. I just want to make sure there's any other questions or concerns that we want to have.
I think it breaks down to, is it a reason why a student would go there for program enhancement, some educational opportunity that might not be available to them otherwise? Is that
like a VOTEC would?
I mean, is that what this letter is about?
No, that is not. It's social emotional. So
okay,
that program doesn't offer anything truly different in the way of curriculum. It's just the way the curriculum is provided there is different. It's more cooperative learning. Right. It's more project-based. It's a different way to give the curriculum, but you're not giving anything different than the curriculum you get here. It's just the way it's provided is different.
And you said it's a lottery-based program, though, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee.
There is no guarantee that the student from our district could get in or not get in.
This is just giving them the approval
Yep.
to enter the lottery.
After they get in, though, they're in for 4 years.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
That is happening.
And then there is the financial discussion of whether or not this is something that the school district can afford
Correct.
over a period of time.
Yep.
So, I guess what,
It's similar to a BOCES program. So BOCES is about $13,000 per student.
Right.
And we send our students there and we get aid. So really, it's a BOCES expenditure that we get back. I think the question has to be is, because we could send 4 more students or 5 more students to BOCES, it'd be about 8 to 9 students per year extra that we're sending now that could go there instead of going to Tech Valley.
how many do we go to BOCES now?
It roughs out to about 25 students this year. But again, those are programs that we cannot offer.
Right,
Yeah.
understand. And this program at Tech Valley is a program we can offer?
Well, it's going to be the same English, social studies, a regular,
Right.
typical high school
It's just the methodology they use
but they do
for
project-based
teaching.
learning.
That's the different part. I'm going to keep the child's name out of it, even though they asked me to read it, but since it's recorded, I'd prefer not to. Okay. And anything that's more identifying, I'm also going to remove that as well. Okay. Please share with the committee/board that our child was a recipient of the Principal's Award in the middle school for 6th grade for citizenship and work ethic. And to speak to the 5th grade about moving up, and also had a 99 average. But inside the child, there was a lack of hands-on learning he was used to and a lack of connection, homework, and quizzes. Non-acceptance of the peers gave him immense stress and anxiety. The child had a deep love and talent, technology, computers, and digital art, as well as a highly sensitivity for others. Now, again, their one child has not gone to a traditional school setting. That's another thing I want to say. They went to the K-5, what's the name of the school district off the top of my head? Yeah, it's not even that. It was the
Montessori.
outside learning school where it's
Oh,
oh my gosh, it's
Children's
right up the
school?
road. No,
No, it's the Nature's Classroom?
yes, Nature's Classroom.
Nature's
So they went to the Nature's Classroom. So
Yeah.
they were not. Yeah, it's basically a school. It's very small.
Mhm.
It's all hands-on outside. It's not a typical school structure. So that was the other thing I wanted to bring up is that they didn't mention here, but I think it's important to mention is that you have some children that have not gone to typical structured schools, then going into middle school and high school, they do, you have to go into the structured school setting. Yeah, it's a big shift. So he has a deep love and talent with technology, as he's sensitive to other and a thrive, but at a cost to their self-esteem and mental health. For our boy, mental health is top priority, and Tech High Valley is a gem in our local community with like-minded peers where he could feel at home and accepted and learn what he'd like to focus on beyond high school, something many young people don't know so soon. And a hope that currently cannot be had while his peers at the other school go on to be accepted there. I would like Voorheesville's district, a leader in progressive education and student advocacy, would like to be more connected with Tech Valley instead of non-participatory, when so many other local school districts are. BCS could say that 8th graders could at least have the opportunity to apply, and perhaps just 1 or 2 of those students who really needed this educational experience. That speaks to their intense tech interest in mind and soul, and then not denied a chance at the specific and unique local educational offering. Like we mentioned, the fact that the district does get a percentage of BOCES funding back for those enrolled in the Tech Valley is something perhaps some are not aware of, which we just talked about. Thank you for allowing us to advocate on our child's behalf, who come after him so desperately need alternative settings to thrive. Please thank the committee for their consideration, and thank you for advocating for all of our students each day. So that is, I'm sorry, I have to make sure that I just get out of this and go back. That is kind of where they're coming from. Any questions on that?
Do we feel as if we are, I don't want to use this word, but I will anyway, discriminating against a student who would like to go to Tech Valley versus somebody who would like to go to BOCES? There is an extra cost to the district for doing that, but there is money that comes back on BOCES aid or some, or what, is it BOCES aid that comes
It's
back?
BOCES aid.
Tech Valley.
I think that's a bigger question for the committee.
Yeah.
And what your thoughts are.
Seems that the BOCES classes are very specific and give training to prepare kids to work in the field. Whereas my understanding of Tech Valley is it's a high school, typical high school experience, a little bit more hands-on, but it's not giving them, I think that part of the appeal of the BOCES classes are for your kids who can't thrive in or the
Want something-
academic setting
Want
isn't
something other than what
necessarily.
you offer. here.
Well, they're not paper pencil, but they're very hands-on learners. They're working on learning to weld or cooking or automotive or things, which is so different than what you can offer in a high school versus just slightly different. I mean, to me, this feels a little bit more like, well, I like the district down the road. I want you to send me to that high school. Their teachers are more hands-on.
But it's about the learning style too. Like this is a totally different
Yeah.
approach
Yeah.
to learning.
I think there's a differentiation. I don't think it's just a high school down the road. I think there is something that they offer that's different. I'm not taking sides here. I'm just
No.
saying, I do believe that there is a difference here. And
Well, I
if
just
it-
don't
and-
see it
and for
the same
them, it
as-
might be,
I don't see it.
it's as different as BOCES as far as they're concerned.
Could be.
I think as Kelly was saying, and I agree with Kelly, is the difference is that it's a standard curriculum being taught there
Mhm.
in comparison to what we already teach, right?
Right.
We have technology components, we have the other aspects, we have English, we have science, we have social studies. They have very similar content and curriculum there. BOCES, on the other hand, is what you were saying,
Completely different.
as you were saying, being biased against them. BOCES is completely different because it's a different curriculum than we can offer. We cannot offer
Automotive.
science. You know, we can offer science here. We can't offer automotive. We can't offer nursing. We can't offer welding here, right? That's why, you know, it's not, you're not being biased against the other kid to the other kid because we offer those programs. It's the delivery of those programs for an individual child that's different from that. So, and that's why some families will say, well, I don't like the type of curriculum or I don't like the delivery, so I'm going to send my child to an academy or I'm going to send them to a private school or I'm going to send them here. They're
That's a
sending
choice
them.
of parent.
That is it's a private school with a funded program through
But
BOCES.
I think Barbara was onto it when she talked about learning style.
Mhm.
Because as we know, all these kids learn differently. And these parents, not taking their side, but these parents are saying, our kid has a learning style that doesn't fit well with what is being offered in the traditional.
As they feel,
Perhaps.
because they haven't,
They-
perhaps, because their child has not been in the
Well,
school
that's a
for
good
1
point.
year.
Very good point.
So this is a perception model that the parent is saying based on their own
So
their
this
own child,
child only came to our district for 1 year.
from what the parent has stated. But again, let's take this parent
And
out.
they've been
No,
gone
it's
for a
fine.
while.
But let's not take this
Right,
parent. Let's
right.
use any
Any-
child,
any child,
right? I think we have to look at it as
'Cause
this
would
is the
open
parent who
door
brought it
for
to our
everybody.
attention, but take that away and only look at it as we have it, you know, this is an opportunity, if the board were to take it, that you're funding for those children to go to an alternative setting for that time frame. You know, and it's any child, it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
Let me again understand, the child has been attended Voorheesville in the past?
This child has, but that doesn't guarantee that this child will get into it.
I understand, but I'm just trying to get, has this child attended
Yes.
Voorheesville schools? So they are familiar with our setting
But
For
again,
1 year.
for 1 year.
for 1 year.
It's their 8th grade.
And they've come to the conclusion that there's a better place for this child to meet their learning style.
Correct. Which is why the child is currently at a private setting.
They're there now.
Yes,
Okay.
they're currently
I've
not.
got
in
it.
our
And
school
if we think about it in terms of, they're not in the high school yet, that year they were here was the year we were in pods at COVID.
Yeah.
So
But-
I wouldn't say that that was a typical year for any of us.
So one
to judge
response
that.
could be, let's give it a year. Give your child a year to come here
Mhm.
or to
But then
Voorheesville.
it's
But then
too
if you're
late for them
saying-
to-
That's too late for them for Tech Valley.
Yeah, because they have to go in.
They
You have to go in
right.
ninth grade.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But again, this is
It's
a
less
situation
about this
where,
situation and more
this
about
is
our
why, that's why I
individual.
want to
Yeah.
kind of take it away from this situation, because this situation, they're currently at a private school. They can choose to continue their child in a private school and look for other opportunities, or they could say, well, the public school could offer that private school setting through Tech Valley possibly. So that's one option, but I think the more important part is does the district want to look at the ability to offer a different setting for high school for any child? And I think that's the bigger question that we got to take away from this, not this individual child.
Right.
In that vein,
Mhm.
if we are talking about taking this on and it would be available to any child, provided that they got in because it is a lottery system.
Yeah.
What would be we cannot cap it, right? We can't say only 2 children can apply.
could.
or
No, you
whatever.
absolutely
You
can. A lot of
can.
school
Oh, you can.
districts only
Yeah.
do one.
One.
And like
Yeah.
New Visions does
Yes.
put a set on how many students
Yeah,
are
yeah.
there also.
So we could say that one person is allowed to
You
apply
could say
to this
one school,
particular.
one person per grade level per year.
Okay.
The
And
district could say that.
And this student may not get pulled in that
Right.
lottery. It could be somebody else.
and
You
the
may have 5
reimbursement is the
people.
same for this
Yeah, about
as it is
60%.
for. Okay, so the delta is what, like just over $3,000?
No.
Well, versus, well,
Oh.
you were. you
Oh,
said
for
both-
both.
Between
yeah,
the
yeah,
two.
yeah,
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 both
yeah.
is
Both
13
Yeah.
and this is 16.
The
It's
difference
not-
though is the expenditure is, for that child, it's another 2 years on top of it
versus-
because it's 4 years in comparison to BOCES. It's 2
And then
years.
it's not just for one student. You're making that policy, I guess, or that
Yeah,
practice
Right.
but
to
it's a
allow
4-year investment in comparison
every,
to a 2
and then every year you're bringing in somebody because you're probably not doing just,
If the
For one
child who's at this Tech Valley says, I'd rather go back to
They can do that.
Voorheesville,
They can do that.
they can do that.
they can do
I
that.
think there's a billing system though that we still, 'cause
Ah.
I've seen this before, and I
Yeah.
don't want to quote it, but
Finish the year.
if they disenroll at a certain time, they're
Right.
still going to have the district pay for it because
That makes
They've
they've
sense.
already put the expenditure out for the staffing and
Right.
everything else.
That
Supposed to.
doesn't.
So, let's say it's like October 1st and the child bills out October 5th. Well, we're still paying for that child to be there because they've already signed up.
But not for
And-
the,
and they
re-
gave
not
us
for the
a lot of
entire high school.
No,
No,
for that
only
year.
for that
I
year.
imagine for that
Yeah.
year.
Even-
And years ago, when I first came to the district, 14, 15 years ago, it was very exciting, Tech Valley High, and everybody was interested. And part of the reason why the BOCES, how it came to be, was also an opportunity for districts to visit. And I brought teachers there to learn about the project-based learning options. And, and over the years, it's interesting. And I think because teachers have had more resources, more PD, it's become less,
That's
less,
niche.
yeah,
Yeah.
less
Not
of a
as different.
special, yes, yeah. So, I mean, I haven't been there in a decade, so I can't speak to that
Nor
part of
have,
it.
nor have I.
Nor about,
But I did go a couple times with teachers, which was interesting.
Yeah.
One more question, just because I really have to understand like the details. If we open it up and we say one person each year can apply for this program, does that mean that we're obligated to continue that forever?
For
once
at
it's
least 4
made it?
years. Well,
Right? But
I would say you open that can of worms, you've opened it forever. Because it's hard
that's what I
to,
would imagine.
it's hard to take something away,
Right.
right? But it's easy to,
I guess you could
Yeah.
stop it and say, we're not taking any more since nobody applied this year.
you have
We're
to
now-
have a very good reason.
that would be
And-
the only reason probably, if nobody applied.
And if we allow one, does that guarantee that Tech Valley picks a Voorheesville kid? Do you know what I mean?
It
Like,
doesn't-
does
I
that
don't know.
mean?
Dep-
Depending
only have one
on, it depends on their,
applicant, you mean?
like, well, it
Right,
depends on their
exactly.
enrollment, right? If their enrollment's low
Yeah.
and they're not getting a lot of students,
Mhm.
then it's more likely that they'll pick our one student.
Right.
If
There's
their
no
enrollment's
guarantee
high.
that they would pick a Voorheesville student. Say we had 10 kids that applied for that one spot. There's no guarantee
No.
that one
No.
spot at Tech Valley is going to go to a Voorheesville kid.
I would
Oh, I
guarantee
thought it
though,
would, no?
it typically, if you have one person, typically that child will get it.
Mhm.
Because if you're only doing one and you're sending it,
Yeah.
they're gonna make that spot available.
I think to Robin's point, there was a time when it was the hot place.
Well,
It might not
I-
be as hot anymore and they may be looking for bodies.
And not every school district sends, I gotta be clear,
It
like,
really does depend. My district still sends
Mhm.
students. I've had several students go, and interestingly, only one of them has stayed there. They've all
Oh.
come back. The only thing my one student said, the only thing they had there that we did not have at Greenville and we don't have here is I think they were able to take Mandarin.
yeah.
Oh,
that
yes,
is
But
true.
that's
that's
it.
true. They've
But I
only
mean,
studied
everything
in
else was the same, and I think he did not have the same resources there for music. And that was very important for him. He needed to be able to come back.
Mhm.
He's studying music away at college
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
So that was a big focus, but the majority of students I've seen have come back after a year.
And as far as sports, they're still
Yeah.
part of our team, but
Yeah.
they're over
It's
there,
hard to
our
get.
prom. They don't
Yeah.
have any of those things. There's no school culture that
Yeah.
way.
That's
But
what,
they
Which is
can come back
unfortunate.
here.
that's what a lot
Yeah.
of the
Yeah, and
students
they're-
miss, and that's
but
why they
if you
come
didn't-
back.
But there's
pretty
no friend group
disconnected.
here when the whole friend group
Yeah.
and peer group is there.
Yeah.
Which is
It
tough,
becomes hard.
which is not our choice. That's a student's
And
choice.
and if you are a student who, like this student, is privately enrolled currently because you're looking for a different sort of
Mhm.
thing, is the only way into Tech Valley having your home public school
Yes.
district
Yeah.
do it? You can't like, you
No.
can't just
No,
wash your own.
it's a
No.
BOCES funded school
BOCES
funded
funded,
program.
understood. Okay.
It goes through the BOCES program.
Got it.
So I think the question to the board is this something that you want to bring to the full discussion for consideration, or do you want to continue as is and say no, or do you want to bring it to the full board for a conversation about opening it up to offering a possible?
If you say no, you gotta be able to say, and here's why we're saying no.
Because you've always said no, first off, it's always been set in
So
stone.
that's not a
We-
very good excuse. That's
Well, your curriculum is, I mean, the same reason they said no in the previous.
That's
reason is
explained,
we offer the
okay. You've
same
always said no,
curriculum.
why?
Well, why have they? Because, I mean, I believe the reason that they weren't sending you before,
Because
And
it's
the
not
board-
offering something so very
correct, and that's
different.
what the board agreed upon in the past was, it's not offering something so different than what we can offer here. So the question is, does this committee want to open that up, or do you want to continue with that mindset?
Are you confident that it's not that different?
I am confident that they
Yes.
use the same standards they
Yes.
teach.
Yeah.
So
I mean, is it different? It's a different setup. than
lot
what we
smaller.
Well, I
have.
understand the
Yeah.
style and all
So-
that, but the curriculum itself, the standards that they're,
No, they use New York State standards.
Yeah.
they use the New York State standards, what they use for curriculum and how they
It's the
deliver
way
it.
they deliver it is different than the way
Yes.
we deliver it. The structure of their school is different than the typical school structure.
I'm just saying, if we're
not
saying no,
taking
we've gotta be on
samples from the
solid
Hudson
ground.
River
We're-
and,
Yeah, no.
We've been on solid ground as other schools have said no in the past. It's different. We offer the same curriculum. As Kelly was saying before, is it's not offering a different thing than what BOCES is. The VOTEC program offers something completely different. This does not offer something completely different than what we currently offer. Hence the reason the district has said no in the past. So that's what we wanted to bring it up. I just want to know your feelings that this was something the board wanted to continue.
Before this particular student, have there been requests previous?
There was,
How many are we talking?
all I know is one that was denied, and that child no longer goes to the district.
So there hasn't been a huge demand.
Correct.
Okay.
So it is about what we offer here is equivalent to what you have there. We won't even get into the money piece.
No, because the money's, it's a BOCES funded program.
Right,
I mean,
so
you
that's
can
not
fund
even
it.
an issue.
It is again another cost expenditure. There's more money that gets on, and when districts get into tight financial issues, everything's gets scrutinized, right? So, $100,000 expenditure through BOCES, even if you're getting it in 1 year, is still $100,000 expenditure when you're cutting program here.
Well, let me ask
That's
you,
something that comes up because those,
let me ask you who work here, are you comfortable saying no?
they've been saying no.
We've been saying,
I mean, if you're comfortable saying no, I mean, I'm trusting your professional judgment here that we've got everything this kid needs. We might not have the learning style that he or she is accustomed to.
I'd remove myself from that
Yeah.
one
I hear-
student, because
yeah.
I can certainly feel
That's how I
emotional.
feel. I have to remove
Yeah.
myself from the student.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you
As
look
a
at
parent, you want
individual
everything you
student,
can
yes.
do for your
My
kids.
recommendation, and I look at it from a completely different viewpoint than the program. I look at it as a former board has made a decision regarding a program of a district. I think it's bad practice when one board then overturns another decision of another board. So, that is, unless you have really
Unless you-
good just cause to do
Well,
so,
that's what I'm
I
looking
don't-
for.
Mhm.
And
I
if
don't
you
see
say
any-
you don't.
I don't see anything has changed in the past 4 years in comparison to what was brought up before. So that is where I kind of look at it is the board already made a decision. I haven't seen a big shift. The only thing that shifted is the people sitting at the table making the decision. Because none of us were here, except for you, Karen.
Yeah, but
But you were-
I
It was
wasn't
not
included in
discussed
any of
here.
the
It was
It is
conversations.
us at the board level. So
It was only.
the only thing that's
discussion board
changed is
level.
this side of the table. Other than that, nothing has changed.
This has not convinced me that we should say yes.
Okay.
I don't feel the need to say yes.
I agree. I don't think that we need to overturn. There's just nothing compelling to indicate that it's time to do so.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Are there other outside programs we're supposed to be talking about?
No, we do New Visions, and we offer that program for New Vision students, and those are really interesting programs where kids go to, and they have many different opportunities. I've had students sit on like Pentagon and do really cool things, and
The medical
shadow
piece
doctors.
is
I mean,
really good.
really interesting
My
stuff.
sister did that.
But again, these are not programs or things that a school
Would it
can offer.
behoove us, I guess I'm looking for some sort of way to help this family to introduce them to some of these other programs that you're talking about?
I'm going to work with the family and talk about offerings and programs that we offer.
Okay,
We will have those conversations.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we've had this family and I have already had a lot of nice conversations. And funny enough, we have connections from years past too, that we all know each other, but definitely we'll have bigger conversations about, appropriate abilities for their children to help. So, on to the next part. So some of this,
You wanted data, you got a lot of.
we got data. So a lot of this data is a repeat, and then we add in new slides. So,
Yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted to revisit.
so I think you just need to tell us.
Well, what I was trying to get at, this is kind of a sequential decision-making process that I gotta go through. What's our current situation, which you're giving me a lot of here?
Right, we're in good
Yeah,
place.
where are we at? What is it that we see now that we would like to improve upon, that we would like to change? Where are the spots that most concern us?
I think we talked about this at the board meeting,
We kind of did.
but we didn't really have any spots that concerned us.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is there
So, yeah, I mean, one thing that I will mention is,
like fifth grade ELA, that's not an area that we should be concerned with? I looked at ELA and I looked at eighth grade math and I thought, boy, you're hitting some spots there where there's at least a dip.
yeah, and again, eighth grade math, we're not including any of those kids who took the algebra test. You had 31 students in that cohort of eighth grade students taking that test. And when we look at this,
Who did not do well.
No. The kids that don't take your advanced students are the ones that are not taking the eighth grade test. So all of your kids that were,
Well, I get that.
many of them that were going to score fours are taking an advanced course. So now your cohort is smaller.
Smaller cohort of kids who you would not expect would get fours.
Not necessarily wouldn't get fours, but they're not already advanced. So you're
All right.
limiting your.
I would say the strongest students are those
Have
students
been
who are
withdrawn.
taking an advanced math, who are never going to see that test.
So this is,
Because we don't make them test twice. Other districts
Can I
and
just say
things
something
have.
about doing well, though, really quick? And you said this at the board meeting, I think it's important. A 2 equates to 65, which is proficiency, correct?
So, yeah, when they came back and they did Common Core years ago,
yes.
what the state did was they said, oh, wow, we have these, New York State, people are getting these diplomas and they're going into college and they still have to take these classes that are not really accruing credit for them. They're having to take a remedial math class or a
Right.
basic writing class, and it's not even giving them college credit because they looked at the SUNY and CUNY data. And then they said, well, how did these kids score on the English language arts regions and the Algebra 1 regions? And they looked at, and it turned out the students who were actually what they were calling prepared to take a writing class in college or an English class in college, were about at like a 75 on that English regions. Not a 65, which is where we give credit. So they back mapped that and they said a 75 on the English regions, what would you need on the 8th grade, this new Common Core math test? You'd need this to be a level 3. So you have plenty of students who are in a level 2 area that are still on track to hit a 65 or above for the English regions.
Or many times, students who scored 2 still get 75s and 80s.
Oh, sure they
It's not
do.
Yeah.
Sure they
But I
do.
think it's
And
important,
how-
so when you're looking at the
Absolutely.
proficiency level and you're seeing the yellow, that's for 1s and 2s. So they're grouping these students who, have gotten 1s, and the kids who are on the 2s that could have gotten 65s to 70s, they're grouping them already lower. And sometimes, I think this is me getting on my high horse, and I apologize. My issue sometimes with these kids getting 1s and 2s is then all of a sudden, all you're doing is saying, well, they'll never be successful. And, and we're not doing that here, but I have seen that in places. And, when we're only using these tests as the litmus to say if a child's
Yes.
going to be successful, we're doing something wrong for kids.
Okay.
You
So
know,
take
that's
the-
important. But
take
when
the
you're
test.
looking at these twos, that's why I want to be clear.
Are there any evidence here of what we were hearing about as regarding learning loss?
Well, I think there is.
Okay.
I think there is with math in particular.
Yeah.
And we can, as we go through,
Yeah.
if you want to go
And we
through some
talked
of
about that a
these.
little bit.
Yeah, we did. Because I think we anecdotally said, you know, was there a shift down or where are those? And we know that there's going to be specific
And if
places
you
for
look at
gaps.
other school districts as well, I want to be clear,
Mhm.
for math, everybody had a shift down. Like, there was a shift for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at how our school does 8th grade in comparison to others, very similar, right?
Mhm.
We have a smaller bracket of students, but again, everybody had a shift down for math. You know, they've noticed that. We, on the other hand, we didn't really have a shift for English, which is
Yes,
really
you
positive.
did pretty well. Can you go into
Yes.
maybe
You tell me
onto,
what you want.
right, go to performance
Yeah,
levels,
please,
ELA? Yes, okay, great.
This is new. This
So
is the new one
yeah,
that we
let's look
put
at some
in
newer
to,
ones. So
to give you a deeper dive, Tim, into what you were talking about.
So
Okay.
there are 4 levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. On the right is 2022, but I thought it would help us to take a look at what it looked like pre-COVID.
And this is grades 3 through 8, because that's,
I took all of 3 through 8 and put them together.
Very similar.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But our
Our
level,
3s and 4s actually got a teeny bit bigger.
level ones did get smaller.
yeah. this-
Okay, well,
So that's kind of nice to see.
that's good to see. That
Now-
right there, that's very helpful.
So we go to the next one, you'll see, I think, grade levels. Now, please forgive me. I have the 2019 on the right of each of these
Yeah.
bars. So that's a full bar.
Wait,
You can
that
see
is- okay.
level 1's at the bottom, level 2's above that in yellow. So that right between the yellow and green is where our proficiency is. Look at how similar grade 3 is between 2019 and 2022.
That's
Now,
fantastic.
grade 4, you can see that we actually have more proficiency
Yeah.
and more fours. The blue at the top are the 4s.
And that's coming out of COVID years.
Yeah.
I mean, these are,
So
you're looking
our-
at this is
and while
insane year.
while we don't have as much proficiency in grade 5 as we did in 2019, you do see that our level 1 shrunk, became 2s maybe,
Mhm.
you know,
And
there.
level 4 got bigger.
No, not in
Oh,
grade
no,
5.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at 19.
Yeah, we did lose some of that.
Yeah, we lost it.
But overall, for the elementary, as you look there, it's not shocking. And the next is middle school.
Karen, just for the kids who did 2019, they would have been 2022. Would that
That's
be?
what I was just trying to figure out.
Okay, good. You were on the same wave I was.
Barb, I've got a slide for that.
Okay,
Oh,
so
all right,
hold
good.
on.
Okay, I
well,
forgot.
like if you're in 3rd grade in 2019,
Where were
I'm
you?
like,
Yeah.
are you in
Oh, that's-
Yeah.
Sixth grade. You're in
So-
So
Just to
um,
see if there's any.
in 1920, actually, I should say. I did the kids who got hit with that cohort. So I'll show you that in a second. So this, grade 6, our 1s grew and our 4s grew, which is
Well, it's
interesting.
still
to me.
ELA.
Yeah.
This is still ELA. This is the middle school.
Okay, middle school, all right.
7th and 8th grade just surprises me how, we
Look
just hit that out of the park. I don't,
Out of the park.
like 80 and 83% proficiency was just.
Yeah, amazing.
So when we're
can't
saying
tell you, I
learning
kind of went
loss,
back and looked at the data because I'm like, is that right?
Yeah, right.
there's really not.
So what I don't
ELA,
know.
we didn't have the biggest concerns.
Is there, I mean, this is just one of those things, but like, is there also like some statistics that like indicate about like these particular classes? You know, like sometimes you have a class that is like,
Yes.
whoa, and then the next year,
Yep.
they're
That's-
good.
Absolutely.
Well, that's why
Any
I always
teacher
say
at
a
the table
standard
says
deviation.
dynamics and. you
Karen
do
yells
that.
at me because I think my standard deviation is higher than hers. I say it's like between 6 and 10% per grade level because it does change dramatically. Some classes you'll have a lot of different like levels of students, and some other classes
Yeah.
it won't. So you can't
Yeah.
guarantee that there's going to be a standard deviation of 2%.
Right, right.
Like you just can't.
Mhm.
Like
What
there
I
can be a
don't
nice big
know
fluctuation.
that I thought about, and I don't
Kelly
know
said,
what,
yeah.
what kind of digging I would have to do. So I don't know that I can grab this easily. So something I don't know about is the students who went remote 2021.
Oh, yeah.
We
that's
had,
really
a class in every grade level in the elementary. We had, like,
Oh, that's an
I don't
interesting-
know how they performed when they came back versus our students who came back when we came back.
Mhm.
Like, that would be really interesting to me. And I
That
don't,
would be fascinating.
I don't know that right now,
Can
but
you
I,
get it? do you
I
think?
don't know. I'm wondering. You know me.
Way to make more work for yourself
Seriously,
because you know.
But I'm so interested.
It is a
in
very
that.
interesting
Students that
thought.
went fully remote.
Fully
Yeah.
remote, even though we had the pods.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
How many
one.
kids were there? I mean, there weren't that many.
Well,
Yeah,
there was a
Oh,
full,
class.
in fact, in
Yeah.
5th grade, there was more
We
than
had 2
30.
classes, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Well, we
it was
doubled
one.
it.
We doubled,
Yeah.
But-
It's another
Sorry, I
one.
got in trouble for that one.
Yeah,
But there were 2 in 3rd grade. There was a lot. There was a full section.
And we
each
had
grade level.
we had that section in the middle school too as we went
Yeah.
through. So, yeah. Then we've got, after this, we've got levels of math performance. So this is, we do see this kind of shift down here, I think.
Mhm.
Level 1s look the same, level 2s grew, 3s look the same, 4s drop. So it's kind of like that. Everybody kind of melted down.
Well, and at least in the public, they're telling us that this is because math was really tough to teach virtually.
It is very tough to teach virtually, and if you think about it, in terms of ELA and maintaining your skills, open a book and read.
Parents
Mhm.
read
Parents
to
can
the
read to
kids at
kids,
night.
you can
Parents can help those
Practicing
pieces.
math, and the math all builds and compounds, and you can't go to the next without.
And the parent doesn't
Versus-
know the math.
No,
Yeah.
and that is,
Yeah.
that is certainly where.
But when
we
we're
see
talking about
more
the
of
same
a-
standards for English language arts again and again, getting more sophisticated as you get older, that's different than I don't
Having
know
to
how to
go back-
subtract and now I'm
Having to go
talking about
back and teach
fractions.
content that certainly I know how to teach, but was not a part of my curriculum. And that's the difference in the kids in front of us.
So I think
So this
that's where
doesn't
it starts.
surprise you.
No, and it's honestly not as ugly as I thought it would be, because if you look at the level 1s, I thought that was going to,
It is
It barely
interesting that
grew.
like level 1 stayed so similar, and really that the shifting happened in levels, 2 through 4.
Well, almost that we were able to almost just help kids maintain,
And then you
but
don't
there
have
wasn't
that
as much
support.
opportunity for extension.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the difference between your 3s and 4s. I mean, I think about my own teaching, and when we were in pods,
Yep.
and even when we were limited to such a short amount of time to switch rooms, and so you had this much time, you couldn't do all the extra things that you would normally do, and hands-on and
That's a
moving
good
around
point.
and
And didn't we
working
spend a lot
together.
more time in pods on ELA?
No,
Was
It was
well,
split
yes,
to-
because our podmate
Right.
would,
also do
They could do
supplementary
supplement-
phonics and they
yes,
could do.
and there was less supplementary math
To-
that they could
Correct.
do.
Yes, very true.
When
I
you,
did feel like there was a little bit more.
There was.
when you compare 2019 to 2022, and you're talking about the 8th graders who are going into like the advanced math, did that number stay about the same, or the percentage of kids who qualified to go to advanced math?
I don't have the algebra numbers right now. I
I feel
mean,
like it was
like a
very
probably like
similar. I feel like we almost had a little bit more than usual, Jen was saying.
Interesting.
last year.
Yeah,
I think we may have
think we had
too,
more.
but I'd have to double check that. It's,
we also had a larger class though.
Mm.
I think that's the other issue, right?
There's so many like you have
Yeah,
stacked
that's-
Yeah,
together.
'cause-
Yeah.
you have a class of 75 and then you have a class of 100.
Right, because the 8th grade to 9th grade last year was only 60, 67.
Yeah, those are little.
And this year it's 100. So I definitely think there were more kids going from something to 8th grade going into that larger class. So that is, I don't think we can really state that.
The next one will show each grade level. Again, you've got 2022 and then the 2019.
I think it's important for grade 3 though. I think that these kids,
They were first graders when we shut down.
yeah, so, this
Think of
is,
how important first grade is.
Oh,
I think this is pretty like,
Yeah.
they've never had a test. They never did this. They had 2 years of shutdown.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm
mentioned-
actually happy that it looks like this.
I
Yeah.
mentioned it at the board.
Right?
meeting.
I think
Yeah.
these are
Could
good
have been
numbers.
worse.
I think these are really,
sure.
Given
I mean,
the
look at grade 4.
circumstances, These are very good
yeah, that's like,
numbers.
I think it's important to know, like, I feel like our staff should be, there should be accolades for our staff. I think there should be accolades for our community. Because our numbers in all, through all of this, stayed either really good for in ELA, like, or where we are, or we had small dips, not major dips.
Right. Now, every red part of those lines, right, every red line there who is a student, we're worried about. And
Yeah.
every one
Oh,
of them,
sure.
it probably has a bigger gap than they would have if we didn't have COVID. So we know that, we see it in the classrooms.
Those reds, those are all my kiddos.
I was gonna say.
Those are all the ones that I knew with every
Yeah,
day.
Kelly's the best person to
That's
talk
what
about
I
math
know.
in here.
I
'Cause
think they're in that.
Yes, not
But
less
that's
third
why we
grade.
do these assessments, is to
It's a
figure
strong
out.
case, right?
Well,
And
that, and we
It's
have
a
our
really
own
big one for
benchmark,
sixth graders.
It is, yeah.
progress
Look
monitoring
at all those
tools that
level
we're
fours
using to
that far.
identify, because we can use those tools to monitor progress versus this, you wait a whole year
Yeah,
to
yeah.
test again, and then you're,
Don't get the data for a long time.
Right.
absolutely, so,
But our fourth grade, I mean,
And Barbara and Robin, if you didn't know, Kelly is our AS math specialist too. So perfect person to.
and if you want to move on from,
I just wanted to do
the middle school, do we have
ones.
middle school? Okay. So we had 31 students in grade 8 in that group,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if you go back, and then we had 41 in 2019. So it's never that large a group versus 84, 80, and some of the others. And then the next one I do have there are two different cohorts. So in that first little graph, you see in yellow, that's when they were in third grade. And then in purple is when they reached sixth grade last year. So our ones grew, but my God, so did our fours. Look at that.
Wow.
This is ELA. And then we obviously want to see the threes and fours grow. And then in the fourth grade cohort, they were fourth grade in 2019, and then in 2022, you can see both 3 and 4 did grow, the threes and the fours.
and the ones and twos.
And the
both
ones and twos
down.
went down, which is nice.
Look at that.
Does that
I love
kind of
this. This is great.
what you were thinking of there, Barb?
Yeah, that's exactly
Kind
what.
of-
I'm having a little tough time following. I'm seeing a glare from the lights.
Well, that too.
Oh, I'm
Do you want me
sorry.
to turn
about
that
that.
off?
Well, I just can't really see
Yeah.
what it says up above there.
So if you look at that yellow on the left
That's
side.
much better.
Oh, you can
Thank
see it
you.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
I don't have a smart board that has anti-glare.
Oh, there we go.
Just saying, I don't have that
Oh,
evening
poor
board.
baby.
You get one, I get one.
Yeah.
This is coming.
All right, so walk me through this.
Sure.
On the left side, you
On the
got
left side, so
grade 3,
in 2019, those kids were in grade 3.
all right?
And that's how many level 1s, level 2s, level 3s, and level 4s we had. We had mostly level 3s in grade 3.
Correct.
By the time they got to 6th grade, which was last year, those same kids, look at all the level 4s.
Ah, okay, that's great.
And this is nice because,
You can
so
s-
often when you compare that third grade test one year to the next, different group of kids, different test, any number of factors that change.
And
Yeah.
these are the things you want to see. Now, again, you don't know who came in, who left,
Absolutely.
if they're a larger group
Yeah,
of
yeah,
special
but-
education
That's
students.
true, but
or
I will
local
tell you
students.
this,
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
jot this down, that third grade, 6th grade,
Mhm.
78 took the test in 2019, 71 took the test in 2022.
Oh,
Because I
nice.
didn't want it to be a total,
Probably similar.
I didn't want it to be like 46 versus 70 or something.
Right.
And then it's math.
Oh, and then math, look at how interesting this is. Level 3 stayed the same both times, both cohorts, right? Level 4s dropped both times. Level 1s grew both times. Level 2 grew both times. So I think it just underscores what we're learning about math.
Well, and take it one step further, and this is just all theorizing, but kids who would have scored a 4 struggled going virtually, perhaps. Huh? No?
Perhaps.
Is that what would have caused them to drop?
I don't think virtual is one component of it. There's
Yeah.
so many other
It really
components.
depends on the kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really does. Some
There-
of them thrived at home,
Yeah.
and then some of them, you might have been really surprised.
But over
They
a-
might have taken a real nosedive.
Over a
remote.
3-year period, those kids
Sure.
were level 4.
I will say, when we look at the 3rd grade and then thinking about them going out in 2019, I know that so many elementary teachers have said, I have to teach them how to be a student again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not used to sitting in chairs and they're not used to
And
that,
middle
working
school.
And
together.
that was one thing we
Yeah.
pushed, that,
Seriously.
the curriculum was not the important thing, right? It
Social,
was,
emotional.
was the important. But I
Building
think something's
relationships.
important that I just realized is 6th grade, they were back, right? They were here every day.
Yes, last year, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, but those kids from 3rd grade to 6th grade, 2019, we were in session. They were here. They weren't, some of those kids, maybe 20 of them per, from that grade level
Yes.
might have been virtual.
Right.
But the rest of them, we were here every single day in
Right.
elementary.
Well, that's a good point.
It wasn't like high school where we were every other day or virtual
Right.
half. Our
2021, they were
elementary
here every
schools were
day
in session every day
in pods.
in pods.
But
So-
the nice part was the smaller group.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think, again, our structure changed, our pedagogy, everything changed during that time frame.
Mhm.
So, that's why you might not be seeing the same aspects. You can't just say it's virtual. I think there's so many other components.
But- So stepping back, would it concern you when you look, I don't know what these actual numbers are, but would it concern you that the fours have gone down in both these grades?
I
I
would
think it's concerning, but not in a way of what could have possibly caused this. Well, clearly the circumstances over the last few years. So now we need to go back to those teachers we have always had success with and get those fully back in play. Because when we were teaching in pods, kids couldn't leave their seat. Kids couldn't work together.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of
all of our
opportunities.
bridges is
The
all.
bridges is,
all of
you're
the-
sitting there doing all that work.
Talk about progress, but
Well, that's exactly what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
what do we,
Project-based learning.
project-based learning.
Yeah, our math
None of that
program-
could
Our math
happen.
program.
So
will
you might
It's
not,
not
so you've
meant
never seen our
to-
math program,
well,
right?
Kelly, you're getting right at what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
where are the areas we want to improve? What can we do about it?
Go
And
back
you're
to what we've
describing
always
it.
done.
Yeah.
And
Our
that's
math
what, and this is
program
the
is all
first year
hands-on.
that we're really able to do
Do
it. Because
that.
even last year, because gosh, we wanted to
Yeah.
stay in one room, so keep
Yeah.
those masks on and let's keep the exposure to a minimum.
And
So
3 feet away
we
from
did
each
let
other.
them do some, but it was very limited.
Yeah. And
And
as the
this
year went
is-
on, things got a little
Sure.
bit more normal.
But, that's
First
impacting
4 months.
all along. I mean, we're finally getting back to
That was
teaching.
Right.
That's a real
So
good
this
point.
is these are our
So Karen,
subgroup
this is
data.
the one that Karen and I really are digging into.
Yeah.
And we really want to focus on because our subgroup data is really where we want to hit, right? Because we know all of our students where they all stand, but the ones that we get identified for, the ones that we need to make sure that we're always focusing on
Not forgetting
understanding how we're meeting their needs are students with disabilities and our economically disadvantaged students.
Yeah.
So we wanted to break this down and share some of this data.
First one is ELA, and we looked at all of grades 3 through 8. And the whole group there, I'm trying to see where my numbers are. So in 2022, 3 through 8, we had 32 students in 3 through 5, 24 students in 6 through 8. That's what, 56 special ed students.
So this is 56.
So that's the whole pile of 3 through 8. That's not a huge number. We just,
Yeah, we felt it was really important to tell you the number of students because you look at this and you say, oh my gosh. But you gotta
56.
remember, you're not looking at 600 kids. You're looking at
I hear you.
50,
right.
all with learning disabilities or, specific IEPs that help modify their instruction.
And I think in 2019, it was 39 students. But interesting to me that after COVID, our ones did not get bigger
No, they shrunk.
Yeah, shrunk.
Mhm.
and our 3s and 4s,
And we have
proficiency went
4
from
now.
12 to
We
16.
didn't have any
We
4s
didn't even
before.
have
I got a 4.
We have,
And so really meeting,
so it's not a huge number of a big percentage for proficiency, 12 to 16, but at least it was the right direction.
But if you continue on this trajectory.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And then the next one is math.
Yeah, but look at the blue though.
No, I know, the blue and
It's a
the
little bit
yellow
more.
grew, the yellow
But-
grew, which I take
Yeah.
that as,
We
Less
went
reds.
from 19% proficiency to 9% proficiency. That's not good. We know that's not good. But again, we don't see our level 1s getting bigger. We see that those 3s went into 2s.
And good target intervention is.
And good
We
targeting.
talked about this, taking your high 2s and moving into low 3s, taking your low 2s and moving them to, all of those things together.
And like you brought up, Kelly, not having those interventions in place for a year when we were remote, and then even into the pods, we didn't have the same kind of interventions. Those low 3s easily become 2s, right? But now we're going to build them back up. Now we're working, so. That's our
and those
direction.
numbers are in line with what
Yeah.
your gen ed population was doing as well,
Exactly.
and it's not disproportionate
Exactly.
than what the others are seeing.
Economically disadvantaged. These are students who get free and reduced lunch.
Yep.
And how many kids was that, Karen?
So 35 in the elementary and 22, let's see, 35 and 18. was that 53 students
Mhm.
for 3 through 8 in 2022?
Actually improved.
So, and I think the other point
And
is
look,
this
I
is,
mean, that's more than half is that are
Yeah.
proficient. And we,
and some of these students are also, they're double, right? So
Right.
some of these students are also special education students. We didn't discern between the two.
Right.
Many times, special education students and economically disadvantaged,
could be
sometimes
the
you'll
same
see
student.
the same student
two
sometimes. So it's just,
And the number increased though of children who were economically disadvantaged in
Um,
2022, that number went up?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
21 plus.
We're tracking
37 to
15-16% now, so
53.
we're seeing another increase this year.
Really interesting.
Yeah, in comparison to a district that 10 years ago was 2%.
I was
4%.
thinking at 5%.
Yeah, so-
tops.
We definitely are increasing, and if
Does
this
that help our rate?
stands, it does.
Okay.
Well, we need to get over like 20%, but yes, the more we have of free and reduced or economically disadvantaged, more aid
Aid
and more
we
grant ratios that we'll be able to get. Right now, we're still at the cusp of being really meeting that, but if we go higher and higher and higher, we'll get more aid.
Yeah.
And more grants opportunities.
Blessing and a curse.
Yep, exactly.
So ELA, let's see, math for economically disadvantaged.
Okay, there you go.
So lost a little ground, but
The
not
red
bad.
shrunk,
And the red
the
shrunk.
red shrunk.
I would say it's not
That's fine.
right.
That's all we need to focus on.
But I think that's
And the
I
blue
think that's
grill.
really
And the blue
telling
grill.
though.
Sure,
All
I
of
do
this is
too.
if our reds turned out to where our yellows are and that all went in,
Yeah.
there's a concern.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it's not. But I think Kelly, the way you said it really framed it perfectly about, it wasn't able to increase. We were just able to maintain.
And again, just to recap this, a level 2, you are like
Set to get a
65, right?
Regents,
Like
correct.
you've met.
Yes.
there's a large range though for a level
Yes.
2.
Is it?
So I can't say all of the level 2s would
Right.
get you to the 65.
When you're
but-
a low 2, it's you might be hitting the safety net if you
Because
get
I think about
services.
how the state will say, AIS below this part of a
Yeah.
Right.
level 2,
Understood.
because that's probably what they're thinking.
But again, I've seen this over years and years and years, that when you have kids who are 1 and 2s, it doesn't mean that when they get to a Regents exam, they will not pass that
No.
Regents exam.
No.
I've seen students who are 1s, 3 through 8, still get a 65 or a 70 or even a 75 or 80.
There's
On
also,
those Regents
there's
exams.
also that this is for my graduation, I'm sitting here taking this test and these
Yes.
3 kids
Yeah.
don't have to do it because their mom said they didn't have,
Right.
There's a
so
lot of issues.
there's
Yeah.
Every
You know,
kid's got their own clock.
Different motivation.
Yeah,
And
different
also our
motivations.
teachers teach, each child gets individualized interaction, education. They're planned on for those years. Like the teachers know who's coming in the 9th grade, where their weaknesses are, and they really help to meet them, get those standards and hit those. There's the prioritized standards, the things that you have to hit and have
Mhm.
to teach, and then there's the extra ones. So they hit those to mastery almost all the time. And that's an important thing. Is like as long as you're in those prioritized standards, you're guaranteeing a child
getting them where they
understanding
need to go.
Yep.
And then we had, I know you know much of this, but we've talked about some of the things that we've put into place, some of the things that we're looking at.
Sorry.
And that's it.
I tried to zoom in so everybody
You
could
did.
see it.
The
I know.
intervention, so-
It just made the button big. It didn't do anything. I'm like, the button got bigger.
The button got bigger.
You can see, well, we have the additional elementary sections. For tier 1, for the intervention that the classroom teacher's doing, not the Kelly Lendrum who's either pushing in or pulling students
But
out.
we do
But the
have
actual,
2
oh, that's on
AIS
there.
math.
Yeah, that's on there. Having smaller class size allows me as a classroom teacher to be able to
Yes.
do that in tier 1 more easily, right? Because I don't have as large a class. We did a review of the state data, as you know. We identified the gaps to the BOCES. For example, something I saw and shared out with our grade level teams. 3rd grade, last year's 3rd grade, there were a couple measurement standards that we just did not do as well in. And, share that with the 4th grade team as well as the 3rd grade team. 3rd grade team, teacher said to me, I know, because we were doing so much of the foundation stuff, we really didn't get to much into that.
And they mean like literally measurement, like.
Measurement
Yeah, okay,
standards,
understood.
whatever, I can't.
But hasn't that like decreased a ton because you know what I mean? Like the time allotted to teaching measurement.
Yes,
Right.
yes, for sure. But
So-
that happened to be,
Right.
a couple things on the test. And interestingly, fourth grade measurement, that was something that came up that I shared with the fourth grade. And you saw how well fourth grade did, but that was one place that was a little bit smaller than the others, how we performed on the other standards. So we look at that stuff, we share that out. They think about, do we need more time on this? Do we need attention on, do we go back to our map and update something? Reteaching of foundational skills, which you have no choice. Kids come in, if they can't count and you're supposed to be doing subtraction, you better make sure they can count, right? And then expanding and updating our tier 2 and tier 3, we've increased our AIS in the elementary school. We,
We do have another person, but we're not going to call her a math person. She does predominantly ELA.
yes,
She does do a little bit of special ed support,
she'll,
and she does a
Yeah.
little bit of math support.
and thank God we have,
Absolutely.
But as we move into next year in the budgeting process and looking at our staffing down there,
that has to be thought about.
we're looking at a possible increase for our special ed staffing. And because we're seeing a huge increase in our special
Absolutely.
education needs, which will then decrease Raquel's, the AIS person, sorry. The AIS person's use as a special ed teacher now, which will then increase her use as a
AIS person.
So,
So
and that's a person that was from the ESSER funds that we're gonna make a
Hopefully be
recommendation to
able to-
continue keeping her on. Because we're seeing,
we still have this need.
We definitely.
We have the
to
needs,
have
right?
that
We want to
AIS
have the people here for that. We've also increased AIS in middle school, high school. Our reading teacher, Shannon Luther, was only 0.4 last year teaching and also doing TA, where now she's 0.8 this year. So we've increased that. We use this iReady program, which allows for progress monitoring and targeted differentiation with the lessons for the middle school AIS, which is extremely helpful because, we don't always, because of the staff that's being used, they are not always having
Knowledge of math.
knowledge of math background. Yeah. So that is a help there. Introducing targeted intervention block schedule. You've heard of our WIN block. And we have some new materials that we've purchased for that are more targeted materials, targeted for phonics, targeted for phonemic awareness, specifically in the K2 area. We've expanded the STAR assessments that we use. We now have STAR early literacy for first grade because not all of our first graders were reading and being able to, throughout the year. Usually by January, we could do the phonics and Pinnell. We'd have some more STAR data and they can use the regular STAR. But there are plenty of first graders who can't. So we've expanded that so that we can get that information as well. And additional minutes for tier 3 students. I'm going to have Kelly speak to that because you probably live that.
Sure. Well, because of so typically when a tier 3 means that it's more one-on-one, maybe 2-on-1 every day. Some of our services, my services, are every other day unless there's a tier 3.
2-on-1 is 2 students.
2
one-
students, 1 adult.
So higher intensity,
typically-
higher frequency
Yes.
is what tier 3.
And I mean, in a typical AIS group, we aim for no more than 4 because again, targeted support for the kids. So, and this is for reading, not math. For the additional minutes, because of the
in the elementary.
in the elementary, because of the targeted intervention program that we're trying this year, where all the students in the grade level are divided up based on ability, and they call it the WIN block, what I need. The students that struggle the most will go with an AIS teacher for 30 minutes. Everybody else is
Every
every day. Everybody else is in groups based on ability at the grade level. But the students that are tier 3, in addition to that time, also go 30 minutes at a different time of the day. So they're getting, instead of 5
Twice as much
sessions
as
a
they
week,
used
they're
to.
getting 10 sessions a week for those tier 3 kids. So really, and for a few of the kiddos that we've been talking about this week with some meetings, they are seeing some nice growth. So that is nice to be able to have that.
And that's for reading.
opportunity. That's just for reading.
And
And
so,
when you're saying like they're seeing growth, is there a way of measuring besides waiting until this ELA? test?
Oh, sure. So
Oh,
we have,
what are the-
we have different progress monitoring tools, whether it be the STAR assessment or their F&P reading levels, or even just the tools that they use for teaching the different phonemic awareness skills. They have a lot of progress monitoring built into them.
Understood.
I mean, even with math, when I'm checking in with kids, whether it's understanding facts or giving just
You don't have to
An
buy a new
assessment.
program
Oh,
for
no,
that.
I
You
mean,
could
I
say,
can
this is
see
the one skill I'm working on.
here we tried. I tested you on it here. I tested you on it, and that's how we're measuring the growth. It doesn't have to be a standardized test to do that, but we can monitor, and we're watching to see how it carries over to the classroom. That's certainly if there is no carryover and they're only doing it in isolation, then we need to change what we're doing.
I just want to say something about the wind block. They're really working hard on trying to get this up and running. It's, bumps in the
We're
road.
still in the
It's still,
infancy of
it's
it.
still bumps in the road.
Can't tell you
Win an acronym,
Yes.
what I need.
what I need.
But I think the important thing is, not only is it talking about your low level, right? All your different levels of intervention and having that, you're also looking at grouping students of likability. So when you're having some of these students that then have likability at a higher level, then it gives the educator an opportunity to then push them a little bit too. So there's some enrichment that can go along with this in theory.
In theory, we're not there yet. I mean,
We're not
it's
there yet.
literally been going on for just a few weeks. So
Yeah.
your kids are learning. Now
But-
you have kids in kindergarten, first grade.
Yeah, this is a really
Switching classes.
It's a pretty progressive model, though. I think that they're trying down there. We talked about this last year curriculum. Jeff came
Yep,
and
he
actually
did.
gave us a presentation of
He
it. It's a pretty. I don't know a lot of schools that are doing something similar to this, where you're hitting all levels of intervention and also giving some, enrichment. And so I'm really hoping, they're going to assess as the year goes along and
We
see
shall
how it
see.
works and look at the data. But we have high hopes that it's going to pan out.
But if nothing else, our students that are most in need of support
Are getting
are
more
getting
than they
extra
ever have.
support.
That-
So
that's
so
right
that
there is good.
we're hoping to see strong data for.
Couple other things. We've got the additional social worker that we have in the elementary, right?
Currently guidance counselor.
Guidance counselor. Why did I say that?
School-
School counselors.
Because we
Counselor.
couldn't
I messed
find
that up.
a certified social worker
Right.
for the maternity leave, so we had to,
That's right.
And-
even though we posted 17 different ways.
Yes, you
I know.
did.
Holy smokes.
But it's working.
Literally posted
Um,
every which way that you
and if-
possibly could post. for
And if I can say that, that they have the school counselors, because now we have 2 currently in the elementary,
Mhm.
I've spoken about how they're better able to meet the needs, and they actually, Mrs. Huntsman does keep very extensive data on the needs that they meet and the needs at different grade levels, and to really showing that it is a 2-person full-time.
Wow.
So hopefully you can keep that.
Add it to the budget. Cha-ching.
And just to, throw this
love it.
I
out.
never
I love how you just take every opportunity. I love it.
One more thing we want to keep.
I'll tell you what's working.
I just want to use the opportunity to mention our professional development, because we did some poverty work in a small group a couple years ago. And now we've got that going on with CASA, with our full staff in an ongoing way. We did it October, we'll be meeting again in January, it'll be 2 more hours in March. So I think that understanding
It's not the
is
one and
helpful.
done.
It's not a one and done. We've got a literacy book group that will be starting in January that Nadine's doing, one of our reading teachers, Shifting the Balance, 6 ways to bring science of reading into your classroom. So we've got also these other little pieces that I think are really helpful for teacher understanding of these students, right? We've got the compass stuff too, by the way. I'm just thinking whole
What does
picture.
the PD consist of, the poverty training such that you said that is going to go on?
So CASA is doing, it's a 4-session component where they come in different times. And it starts at a low level kind of introductory. So remember, I don't know if you remember in the past, CASA used to do this big thing where they came in for a full day and it basically was
Poverty
called a poverty
simulation.
simulation. What they realized was people would do it, they'd have fun with it, but then it really wasn't getting down to the meat and
There's
butter.
no
Very
carry over
game.
to anything.
Yeah, really. So now, Karen can speak a little bit more to this, but it starts off at a level of basic understanding on different aspects of poverty,
Mhm.
and then digs deeper each time. So
Yeah, no, I think you said it
Yeah.
well. I mean,
So by the end of this, people really understand how poverty is systematic, how it can impact children. People always say, well, I grew up in poverty, so this won't happen to me. And, I will be the first one to tell you, I grew up in poverty. And I was the first person when I went to a training saying, well, poverty's nothing. I came over it, so why can't you? Right? I'll be the first one to tell you. I said that at a meeting, and they said to me, well, just because you feel that way, that's a bias that you have. And now look at what you're telling other kids of poverty. Like, you should know better. Like, and I'm like, ooh, it really impacted me because I realized that because I was be able to overcome the systematic, cycle of poverty, that I think everybody should. And that was a bias that I didn't really truly understand. And having these conversations are so important because
We bring it right back to our district.
we have these conversations. Not everybody truly understands it. Most of our teachers come from middle class environments.
Sure.
We have, we're a low needs school district, means high wealth. So the amount of students that we have are poverty, we don't know about it. And we truly don't understand the impact of what poverty can bring to our students, right? Of, either it's their families may not have education in the home, reading levels might not have been high, the opportunities, how poverty impacts the child when they're at home and what their responsibilities are in comparison to other kids, right? A child of poverty may have a family who, when they're 12 years old, they're taking care of their siblings at night when coming to school, when that family does, because they have to work at night and they're, it's a single home or, however it works, or the other parent sleeps during that time.
I'll tell you, we have a teacher
Lots
who
of
has
different
said
things.
many times, the safe snack list is a luxury.
Yeah.
It is.
If you think about
It is.
what
Oh,
we're expecting families to do and,
Yes.
and,
Or even
Sure.
the fact that we have instruments and, for
Do
a
we have
child to
what?
play,
I'm
the
sorry.
child play an instrument.
Oh.
There's still money that has to come out of that. We do subsidize and help, but all of those things, or what we ask kids to do at home, like we expect them to read when they might not have a safe place to read, or we expect them to
Or quiet.
bring in materials when they might not have those
I
materials.
bring that backpack food every
Right.
week,
you do, right?
and it's like, wow.
Right.
First
Or-
time I went, it was filled up my whole back of my car. I was like, we got this
And
many
you're
kids
in our
Right.
district.
But
let's
in
remember,
our district.
Look at what we also have now been able to give to every kid. Right? Every kid in the district, no matter who they are, no matter if they have money or don't have money, or have means or don't have means, have the instructional tool already at work. And if they don't have internet, we also provide internet.
Yeah.
So these are the conversations and topics, and all of these things intertwined to each other.
And it's a good conversation because, when I started here, it was most of the families, one parent stayed home.
Mhm.
And that's a big shift over time. I mean, certainly my own household, nobody stays home, we both work. And and just an appreciation and an understanding of the impacts across, we have a larger ENL population, higher poverty.
I want to say
Higher,
much larger,
And that
population
impacts,
Yeah.
impacts the classroom a lot.
ENL, not ESL?
Well, it
No.
keeps changing. ELL,
It was ELL, then it was
What's
ESL, now it's
the-
ELL.
It was ESL, which was
What's ENL?
ENL is English as a new language.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't do
ELL
that.
It's all the same.
It's all the
All the
same.
same.
It's all the same.
And-
English language, I don't know what I'm.
And-
ELL is the student, English language learner.
Yep.
ENL is the program.
Understood.
Gotcha,
But
sorry.
we say people who don't speak English.
That doesn't come along.
No, it doesn't. It's all
I
right.
do pretty good with like USA, IRS, anything like past that, I'm like, what is that?
But our
What's that?
population
I can't
has,
remember them.
what is it,
Yes.
quadrupled?
I don't want to keep you guys
Yeah.
too long, so you got.
Yes, and you know what, I will just say, I have the same slides under
These are the
regions,
same,
but
right?
I'll just mention a couple things from
These are
our,
exactly the same that we
yes,
shared.
Those
our
we saw,
department
right?
chairs dug in.
Okay.
And, they're still working with their teams. They met in October, they're meeting again in November to do more digging into the data. But what the last time I met with the supervisors, what we did is looked at the subgroups, which, they're not there yet with their teams. Their teams just basically, getting a feel for how did we do, what questions, what standards, what were the distractors that were confusing. So our supervisors, our department chairs and department leaders dug in and started looking at things like male, female, economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities. So just a couple notes from what they noticed, I'll just throw out there for you. In particular, in social studies, as well as English language arts, that's something where we really want to pay attention to our special education students. Those are heavy reading, heavy writing tests, and they're trying. And while our free and reduced lunch, 89% on that new global exam, proficient, really nicely done.
Yeah.
But it's a heavier lift for our students with disabilities. So we had some great conversations about what that could look like, kind of we could be doing in those classes. And I will say in English, the nice thing about this is that we had the 11th graders this year who are in that class also have the same general ed teacher and special ed teacher from 10th grade into 11th grade. Whoop. So that's very helpful, I think.
Yes.
And they meet and they talk and they have a lot of reflection and really do a real co-taught kind of class there. I'll throw out math as well, just to mention. Algebra 1, we were 94% proficient last year. 71% proficient with our economically disadvantaged, 80% proficient with our students with disabilities. Those are really good numbers.
We are good.
And 2019 really looked the same, 91% economically disadvantaged, 73% students with a disability. So that was, we have so many different levels for math, so many different places for to work with students that I think that's a big help as well. So I just wanted to touch base on a couple of those things as well for you. I won't hold you anymore.
Well, I want you, Karen, and Frank to know this was exactly the conversation I wanted. So I really was interested. So what does this all mean and what are we going to do about it? And you're telling me we got a lot of things moving in the right direction. So I am so happy we had this conversation. Thank you very
Me too.
much.
Good.
Me too.
Anything else?
Are there any other questions? Any other issues that we should be thinking about for future? Think about it. You don't need to answer that right now. But if there's other agenda items,
Staffing will be the next conversation we have in January, because then I'll have a better understanding of.
that would come to a curriculum committee.
Yeah, because part of the charter states that we talk about the budgetary concerns for
Okay.
staffing
All right.
that come up here, so that we will definitely be attacking that.
Happy to do that. All right. All right. Kelly, anything more?
No, I was just looking to make sure I have the right date on the calendar. January 24th is our next meeting.
Sure, sounds great.
Let's do a quick check here. We know we don't have a meeting in December because we're doing every other.
Yeah.
Right, so
So right now we're looking
December's
at,
not looking good for me, so I'm like,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
what is this?
Every day.
I have January 24th
Perfect.
as well,
4:30.
4:30.
Awesome,
All
all
right.
right.
Great.
All right.
Having
Thank you
these on the
very much.
calendar ahead
I was
it
gonna
makes
put it on my calendar.
makes a lot